In this video, we will be studying about the memory management strategies. So now we have seen in the previous module that we are continuously working on the memory for doing or completing our tasks. But we haven't concentrated on what are the strategies used in the memory, how the addresses we are generating and how this mechanism is taking place. So that is what you are going to study in this chapter here now about the memory management. So now generally we can say that memory is a collection of array of memory locations. Each of them is having their own addresses. So you can take memory as a collection or it is an array of words. So each is a memory location, each cell is a memory location there and each cell is having its own addresses. So whenever the instruction will be executed, it is following the what it is doing? Instruction. So it is instruction fetch phase is happening, then instruction decode is happening, then executing that instruction. So these are the three steps which are followed for executing an instruction. So instruction fetch phase means what? It is bringing the instruction from the disk to the memory here. Anything which is to be executed first it is to be brought into the main memory, then only it can start the execution. So in the instruction phase, fetch phase, the instruction is brought first into the memory, then next we are going to decode that instruction. So after decoding that instruction, we are going to understand what are the operands which are required. Are those operands already present in the memory or they have to be brought into the memory? If already present in the memory, those operands are used and the instruction is executed. But if those operands are not present in the memory, then what is to be done? Those operands from the disk, they should be brought into the memory and followed by the execution. So after the execution also, whatever result you have got, that result may be stored into some memory location, that is, it may be stored in some memory address or it should be displayed or sometimes it will be displayed to the user. So these are the steps which are followed during the execution of the instruction. So what does this mean is, whenever you are doing something into the computer, memory is the first very important thing which you come across. So we have to study more about how we are going to use the strategies or how the address binding is done, how the conversion of the addresses is done, that is to be seen here. So this is something background about this memory. Then we have seen that whenever you are executing the instructions or some processes, so we are always dependent on the efficiency of the system. Efficiency means what? In terms of speed I am talking. So speed means so how fast the instruction is executed. Okay, I am telling how fast the execution is of the process is done. So that depends on where that instruction is present. So where that instruction is present defines the speed of that execution. See, the instruction should be present in the main memory for its execution. Inside this main memory and processor also, again we are having different small memories there which are used for the execution. So we all know about something called as processor registers. We are having the registers. These registers are present with the processor itself. These registers are present with the processor itself, very close to the processor. So they will take less number of time, that is only one CPU cycle will be taken for the execution. So if the data and the instruction is present with the registers, then it will take only one CPU cycle for its execution. Suppose it is not present in the registers, then we have to approach the memory, is it not? So accessing the memory takes more amount of time. Let us take one very small example which I always quote in the class, that is, suppose I tell you to get a chalk from the adjacent hall and I tell someone else to get a chalk from a staff room. So who will come first? The person who will get the chalk from the adjacent lecture hall will come first than the other one. Why? Because that is very near to us. That same procedure can be applied in this computer science also. So what we can do is, so next we have to approach the memory. Here memory is like my staff room. It takes more amount of time, a little bit more amount of time for its execution. So what we have to do? We have to introduce something intermediate between these processor registers and the main memory. See, processor register is the quickest memory access. Processor register is the quickest way of accessing the data. But if it is quickest, then we have to keep all the data into that registers only. Is it not? But we are not doing like that. Why? Because we are having a limitations that these registers are very few in number. This is one point. Another is the space capacity is very less of these registers. Like 8-bit registers will be seen, 16-bit registers. In terms of bits, you will be having the storage capacity. That is why we cannot accommodate all the data into the registers. So that is why what we have to do? We have to introduce an intermediate between these registers of the processor and the main memory. We all know what is that intermediate between the main memory and the processor registers. Yes, that is called as a cache memory. So we all know what is a cache memory. Cache memory means what? It is containing the frequently used data. It is containing the frequently used data by the processor. So if the data is not present with the registers, then the processor will check next in the cache memory. Then the processor will check in the cache memory. So if the data is present in the cache memory, so it will be taken and executed. Now it is not present in the cache memory also. If the data is not present in the cache memory, then the processor should go to the main memory. Now it is not having any other option. So it should be going to the main memory. It is fetching the data from the main memory. Plus what it is doing? It is keeping a copy of the data into this cache memory also. So it is fetching the data from the main memory and also keeping a copy of that data into this cache memory. Why? Because it may assume, the computer is assuming that in the future that data may be again used. That data may be again used. If it is used again, so again simply going to the main memory. So for that is why if it is a copy of that is kept in your cache memory, then easily directly cache memory can be accessed to get the data. So what will be done? When you are accessing the main memory, a copy of that is kept in the cache memory and that data is used for the execution. So this is what you are going to see when you are doing the operations. So now one more point you have to keep in mind. Now we have already studied the dual mode of execution. Is it not? User mode and the kernel mode. User mode means it is consisting of the user processes. So user has the authority for accessing the memory space of the user. But in the same way, user is not having the authority, it is not having the privilege to access the data of the kernel or access the data from the operating system. Why? Because deliberately or unknowingly, sometimes deliberately or unknowingly, the user process may harm or change or do some modification to the kernel processes. So if the kernel processes are disturbed, the system will not work properly. So what point you are getting from this here is, you should keep the security from the user mode and the kernel mode, means you should have the security from the user space and the kernel memory space. So user memory space is different and operating system or kernel memory space is different. So you have to give the security between these two. And also we have seen while studying the processes that two processes will be not interfering in their memory space. They will be not interfering in the address space. So you have to give the protection for what? The user space should not interfere with the kernel space or the operating system space, and one process should not interfere in the memory space of the another processes. Okay, so what we are doing, 2 points we have to keep in mind here. First point, what? You have to give the security between user and the kernel operating. Next, what we are doing, between the two processes. Okay, between the two processes also you have to give the protection. They should not interfere when each. Then what strategies can be used for for giving this protection. What are the different options which can be used to fulfill this security process? So one very basic thing is using the base register and the limit register. What is this base register? Name itself is indicating base register. Base means it is having the base means foundation, starting point. So base is having the smallest physical address stored into it. Smallest legal physical. Legal in the sense it is legal to use. Illegal means maybe you are going to use the address space of the operating system or the address space of the different process. That is illegal usage of addresses. So what does base register contain? Base register contains the smallest legal physical address. So it is containing the smallest physical address. Then we are having the limit register. What does this limit register tell you? Limit register is telling you what is the range which you can access. So how much space starting from the base register you can access, that is stored in the limit register. What is your limit? What is the limit of this particular process? That will be told. So now you can see an example. So in the base register it is having this information. Means so this is 300040 is the base address. Means this process, whatever this process is there now, let me take this as process number 1. This process number 1 has its address space starting from this value, starting from this base or starting from this index, starting from this value we are having the address space. Then what is its limited from this 300040 till where it can access? It can access up to 120900. So it can access up to starting from 300040, it can access next 120900 addresses. Means what you are going to do here? 300040 plus 120900. That will be the total addresses available to this process number 1. It is just like a very simple example. That is, your exam is starting at 9 o'clock. Your exam is starting at 9 o'clock and you are having 3 hours to write the exam. So what will be its ending time? 12 o'clock. So 9 o'clock is your base, 3 hours is the limit. So what is your ending time? 12 o'clock. So what we are adding this one? That is nothing but your final address which you are going to use here. So this implementation can be given in the computer using the hardware which can check and maintain these two protection criteria. So what are those criteria? We have already seen that there should be protection or there should be difference in the user space, user address space and the operating system's memory space here. Okay. Then what is next? The two processes also should not interfere with each other. So using this hardware, basic hardware, we can give the protection securities of these two criteria. Let us see how with this block diagram. This is the hardware protection for the user space and kernel space and also between two processes. Now see what, whenever an address is generated by a CPU, whenever one address is generated by a CPU, it is checking whether that address is greater than its base register. It is greater than or equal to its base register. Whatever address is generated by the CPU, that address, is it greater than this or greater than or equal to the base register. Suppose this is your base register and suppose if I give the address as this one. See, the base itself is starting from 380040. So if I give 380039, this is belonging to some previous process. It is not there with this. So it is checking the first condition, whether the address which is generated by the CPU is greater than or equal to the base register. It should be at least minimum equal to this base register. So after this, is the protection given given? No. We have to check whether the address is not exceeding this limit. It should not exceed the limit. Is it not? So next we are checking if yes, if this condition is true, then we are checking whatever the address is there, it is less than the base plus limit. It is less than the base. The limit is still here. If I give the address of this process, again it will be an error. Is it not? So we are checking whether the address is now less than the base plus limit. If yes, if the condition is true, then we are giving the access to the memory. If no, what? If in the first time also if it is no, in the second time also if it is no, then what will happen? A trap to the operating system will be sent. Means what will happen? An error will be created. A trap to the operating system saying that illegal access of address is done by so and so process. So that will be generated. So that trap will be generated and the process will be not given access to the memory here. Okay. Then next question I want to explain you here is, who will load this base and limit register? Who will load? Who will keep the values in the base and limit registers? See, why we are using this? To give the protection. Suppose if the user is allowed to load the base and limit register, he can load, that person can load any address which he wants to access. Then there will be no protection. That is why privileged instructions are used to load this base and limit registers. Privileged instructions are used to load this base and limit registers. So in which mode these privileged instructions are used? They are used in the kernel mode, that is in the operating system mode. So operating system is the only person who is allowed to load the base and the limit register. Operating system itself is allowed to load the base and the limit registers. See, user is given access only to the user memory space, but operating system is given the access to the user memory space also and to the kernel memory space also. So now we have studied what is the background of this memory strategies, how the level of accessing is done. First we are having processors, registers, then cache memory, then main memory we are having. If it is not present in the main memory, then we are going to the disk to bring the data. Then what we are doing, by doing this, there should be no interference of the different processes with each other and also with the operating system. That is why we have used this basic hardware for implementing the security for these two criteria. So next we will be studying about the address binding. So what is this address binding is? See, whenever you are going to execute a process, it will be first be in the disk. So from the disk you are bringing that into the main memory. So in the disk also there will be many processes which are waiting for the execution. So those are waiting in a place called as an input queue. So whatever we are having in a queue in a disk, that is the input queue. From that input queue, one process is taken and it is brought into the main memory. And even in the main memory also there will be many processes waiting to get the CPU for execution. So the place or the queue which is waiting in the main memory is the ready queue. The one which is present on the disk is the input queue and the one which is present in this main memory is the ready queue. So when we are bringing the process into the main memory, that time from that main memory data will be selected and then it will be given for the execution. So when it will be given for the execution, it is going to take the data. So when it is going to take the data directly, it is not going to take the name of that data, but what it will take the address of that data. So whatever data we are providing in our source code, that is not the absolute address. What do you mean by absolute address? Direct address. For example, numbers. So 1340, this is one address. So like this we are not giving the address in our programs because we don't know where that programs is going to be stored. So even if the memory location in our system starts from 00, every time the program which is being executed does not start from 00. It can be located anywhere in the part of the memory where the memory is free, where that process can be accommodated or fit. From from there that address will be starting. So then what is done is, now inside this program we are having a source code. In the source code we are having some variables. For example, I am using a here. So a is a variable which is used. This is called as a symbolic notation. Is it not? So symbolic constants are present in the source code or in the program. Then when you are doing the compiling, see in the source code you are having the symbolic constants or the notations. Then we are going to compile. So after compiling, the compiler or the assembler, it will change these symbolic constants. It will change these symbolic constants to the relocatable addresses. Relocatable addresses. So what is this relocatable addresses? Relocatable means it is just telling you the offset. Like this symbolic constant a is 14 bytes away from the base register, or it is something 30 bytes in between. So like this it is telling you some relocatable addresses. So whenever a source code is compiled, the compiler or the assembler will generate the relocatable addresses. So then what happens? These relocatable addresses cannot be again used to go into the memory here to get the data from the memory. So what will happen? Next, the loader and the linkage editor. The linkage editor and the loader, what they will do is, they will change these relocatable addresses to the absolute addresses. They will change to the absolute addresses. What is this absolute address? This is actual number. So absolute address, as I told you, as 1340. This is the actual address which is present in the memory. So who will do this? The linkage editor or the loader. These will change these relocatable addresses to the absolute address. Then how they will change again? We have seen the previous basic hardware. It will use the base register and the offset, that is the limit register, and find out the actual absolute address. So like that we are using this. During this linkage we are having some other modules which are linked, and the system library also linked to it. What is this dynamic linking and what is dynamic loading? That will be seen in the next concept. Okay. For now you just remember that we are converting the relocatable addresses to the absolute addresses using these linkage and loader modules. So once it is converted into the absolute addresses, directly we are going into the memory. That is, we are having the data from the memory which we can get using this binary format. So whatever the address is generated by this loader and the linkage editor, that can be used to get the data from the memory. Then comes the question, who will convert these pins? Who will be monitoring these conversions? Who will convert them? So that is done by the MMU, that is Memory Management Unit. So Memory Management Unit does this. What it will do is, so whenever the CPU is generating the address, that address is called as the logical address. So it is called as the next concept is logical address and physical address only. So logical address. For now, just remember this is logical address generated or virtual address which is generated 346. Then this MMU, that is Memory Management Unit, with the help of this relocation registers, is nothing but again the base register. So using these relocation registers, it is adding some data, limit and base we are adding, is it not? So that is added and one address is generated. That address is called as physical address. So address which is generated here is the logical address, and the address which is generated by this MMU is the physical address, and this is the absolute address which is used to get the data from the memory. So this is how the address binding is done. See, address binding can be done during the compile time. So address binding can be done during the compile time, during the loading time, and three times or different ways the address binding can be done. Means the translations of the data, of the addresses can be done at these three times. Compile time. See, when you are transforming the notations into directly the absolute addresses during the compile time, only when you know that, when you are fixed, when you are sure that the particular process is going to begin at location R. So when in many of the microprocessor programs or previous computer organization programs, you have seen that database, something program is starting from the word database. So followed by the database, then one location will be given, something maybe R or something else. So at this location R, from there only the program will start. So you will be, if you know the address from where that process is starting at the compile time, address binding can take place at that compile time only. But you don't know at the compile time where the process is going to start its execution. That time the address binding is postponed up to loading time. So when the compile is over and when the relocatable addresses are generated, at that time if the address binding takes place, then address binding is said to happen at the load time. So please remember that those addresses which are generated at the compile time and the loading time are identical, same. Okay. So if you are doing the address binding during the compile time or load time, you are going to get the identical addresses. But suppose you don't know the addresses from where the processes will start, even at the compile time or even at the loading time, then address binding. What is address binding? Again, conversion from symbolic constant to relocatable to absolute addresses. This is address binding. So if you don't know the address binding at these two times also, then the address binding is postponed. Then the address binding is postponed up to the execution time. This is totally dynamic during the execution time. It means that first time when you are executing the program, that program starts at an address 005 something. Second time when you are executing the same process, if the address binding is done at the compile time, it will not start at 005. It may start at 005. But most of the times it will not start at 005. It will start at some other point. It will start at some other point or other location where it can accommodate dynamically. Wherever place is there, go and fit into that. So dynamically the addresses is created. Starting of addresses is done here. So the addresses which are got during the compile time and the load time are identical, but the addresses which is got during the execution time are not identical. They are unique. They are completely dynamic. So this is how you are going to do the address binding. Next, let us come to the point what is logical address and what is the physical address. So the address which is generated by the CPU is called as the logical address. Means it is not the actual address which we can access from the memory. It is just an address. Again it will be relocated. So that the address which is generated by a CPU is called as a logical address. This logical address can be also called as a virtual. Since this is not real, so it can be called as a virtual address. Logical address, virtual address, both mean the same. Then what is real address then? So whenever this logical address